What's up, y'all? Reggie here. Another video coming at you for the Utopian project. Speaking of Utopia, let's talk about some controversy. Abortion and Roe versus Wade, right? So now, to start this, I'll do a too long didn't watch version. One, abortion in and of itself is a logical fallacy. It's a word used to not have to say taking a life. So this really is a point that it should be a moot point. It shouldn't even be argued, right? You're taking the life of a human being. So why are you arguing about that? So there's that. Now, I'll flesh it out later in the rest of this video and in other videos, but that's the main point. So really everything after this is just like an exercise in like practicing, talking about this topic, and mostly the logical fallacy surrounding it, because it's all a logical fallacy and it's built on other logical fallacies. Because people don't want to say pro-death, they have to call it something else. Pro-choice, reproductive freedoms and health. It's about health and healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. So and also, this is part of the reason why for so much of my life, I've seen it argued about when does life start? And this is why this argument was so big, because if life starts at conception, then you're taking a life at any point after that, right? So a lot of people wanted it to be after the child is born, because then you're not attached and you're not a parasite and you're not a lump of cells inside of another body kind of thing. So now people are kind of moving away from that fallacy, and they've been directed to talk about others. And in doing so, like making it about guns, et cetera, and comparing it to guns, you're now kind of comparing. How can you make that comparison if you're not talking about losing life? So people don't really understand that by making these fallacies, you're telling on yourself, so to speak. You're giving up the position of when life starts, and now you're just justifying when life ends, or when, you're trying to justify when life ends. So you're telling on yourself with that. But anyway, more on that later. The other thing is this Roe versus Wade situation, right? So for those who don't really understand, Roe versus Wade this overturn is a very good thing for America. And if you don't really understand that, then it's probably because you watch too much TV. And you've spent too much time, again, knowing everything about The Walking Dead or Power or whatever else. This other stuff is boring. Reading about Roe versus Wade is boring. But you need to read about it, and not from the typical sources that you would have when you Google. You need to read some journals, et cetera, et cetera. Because the main point of contention when it comes to Roe versus Wade, besides, the biological aspect of it with abortion, is that the Supreme Court was used to basically pass a law. And in America, we don't pass laws that way. So it never should have made it to this, as I'm sure other people that were involved in this case kind of recanted and kind of changed their minds later. Kind of like the Jack Dorsey with Twitter. He said, dang, I kind of regret allowing my platform to be used for so much political bullcrap, basically. So you don't make laws in America by the Supreme Court. And it's very dangerous to allow that, because you're talking about 8, 9 justices or whatever, a handful of old justices of a certain persuasion, probably of a certain other demographics, telling you creating law. And that's not how we make laws. If you remember waking up on Saturday morning, I'm just a build on Capitol Hill. That's not how we make laws in America. Now, the powers that be who want to take over America, destroy America, and et cetera, they want to control the courts. And this is why now they are talking about stacking the court again. And if you remember, before this warm bowl of oatmeal got elected to a certain position to run a certain country, the question was, are you going to stack the courts? Are you going to stack the courts? And stacking the courts, for those who don't know, is when you add a judge to the Supreme Court. Because when you pick a judge to the Supreme Court, you're obviously going to pick somebody that you think is a good fit for your political leanings. So this is why it's being called to do that now. And part of this whole thing is to make people less respectful of America, give you some, again, brooding this hate, this low-key kind of disdain for America and the typical American processes, so that you will support bypassing it, trying to change it, trying to do something unconstitutional, trying to do something treasonous, trying to do something that's not normal protocol. So because these people need to have control of the courts, because a lot of things that are going to be controversial are going to end up in the Supreme Court. So but the Supreme Court didn't strip away anybody's rights, AOC, to rebut her, and also to rebut Michelle Obama. Her words have been taken and put into and written and turned into a meme, so it's easy to share now. And she's basically she's basically admitting the reason why it should have been overturned and never should have been ruled in the first place. Because the quote unquote law of the land is not a matter of the Supreme Court. And that's why it was overturned. Now, why it was overturned now, we can put on our tinfoil hats about. That's another video or video series. But in the midst of everything else going on in America and the world. But yeah, the Supreme Court is not involved and should not be involved with determining laws of the land. Courts are used to interpret the laws that have been set forth in the typical matter of going through the legislative process. So now you see people talking about get out and door knock and get out and buy. You haven't had to do that over the past 5 decades. So people have grown complacent. And now if you want to change this situation, you have to go through the typical democratic process, right? You vote, you elect, you have debates, you put the information on the table, and you realize what it is and what it isn't. And it allows you to really flesh out the details of what abortion is and what it isn't. Now, and before this gets too drawn out, I want to touch on a few other things, and then, I'll be talking about these things further in other videos. But those are the main points. This idea, if you watch TV, again, and if you just let the typical social media feed come to you, it's going to make it sound like, oh my God, we just got set back. You're the victim. They're after women. It's a war on women. It's this, that, and the third. Everything is so bad. Please save us. Will the government come save us again? It's nonsense. And as one justice said, the power was sent back to the states. Now, if you have a problem with your state's ruling, then again, this is what the legislative process is for, and you door knocking and you getting with your representatives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But no power or anything, no laws, no rights were stripped from anybody. I forgot where I was going. But anyway, when it comes to this topic, you have to be careful, because people get in such an emotional state. It's just, I see people, so many people that I thought I knew, and it's just like their brain exploded. And now they're ready to play these fallacies. And it's like, oh, if you support this, then, it's the false choice fallacy. Well, if you support this, then I can't be your friend. If you support this, then you're this, that, and the third. It's just funny. And as other people have said, imagine this coming from the fact of people wanting babies to live, for the most part. Because, again, most of this is about birth control and convenience. It's not about, from CDC's own data, less than 1% of abortions come from rape or incest. And to touch on that, another thing I'm going to do in another video is talk about various people, some well-known, maybe some not well-known, who are the children of rape. Because I see people talking about, well, I'm not pro-murder, I'm pro, and then they give a situation where abortion helps someone. So the flip side of that is nobody is talking about, when's the last time you've seen anything on the news showing a bunch of people who were the children of a raped mother? So that's something to talk about also, to balance out this other situation where people want to make this something that it's not. But with even if you just took the error, the error percentage out, 4%, and you just said 5%, right? So, and I think in Florida, it was like, a couple of years ago, some of that data that I saw, like less than 1%, a fraction of a percent were due to medical emergencies, right? So it's just really rare. Now, amongst a large percentage, amongst 350 people in America or whatnot, depending on what you're reading, and not all of those are adults or whatever, but among all the pregnancies, you being able to find 10, 20 situations where abortion was needed to kind of save somebody's life, et cetera, that's a very small percentage. But on your social media, it might look like a lot. But this is very rare for a person to need an abortion in order to save their life. And if I'm not mistaken, before Roe versus Wade, this was legal. So that's such a rare thing, it's almost not even worth talking about. And even if you wanted to compromise and say, hey, okay, we'll give you that. We'll give you, that can be legal or whatever because it's a medical issue. And if I'm not mistaken, that's still the case, regardless, in states that even have outlawed it. But I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me on that. Obviously, you're talking about a medical situation. It's a totally different topic. But for the most part, again, according to CDC and any other data you can look up, most of the reasons for abortion are financial / convenience, et cetera, and less than 1% are rape, incest, and any of these other situations that wouldn't have you being able to deliver a child full term. Now, you can go down all these hypotheticals and slippery slopes of an unwanted child, but again, there are many people that have been born unwanted and lived, wonderful lives, et cetera. And in the land of utopia, where everybody wants to do away with everything bad, supposedly, you could certainly make the argument that in these situations, you carry the child full term, the community would help you find solutions after that. We wouldn't judge you, et cetera, and that child gets a good home and gets a chance to live and thrive, et cetera. So, but again, I'm not one of those people who are going around like calling everybody murderers and with that type of energy. Now, I'll use some language like that when somebody's in some comment section somewhere, thinking they're smart and making a bunch of logical fallacies and talking a bunch of smack and being disrespectful. Then I'll just flip the switch and be like, well, it's time not to really even debate much anymore. And then I'm just gonna stick to the proverbial quote unquote gun. But yeah, and shout out to those people who can argue this topic without talking about guns, because it's just like that's just so old. I don't even know, and it's just faulty. Logical fallacies are faulty, but to start comparing deaths, you really don't want to go down that road, because you're talking about death, and we can really rack up some numbers if we do what I think is 70 million since I can't remember. But 70 million deaths from abortion, if you look at it that way, which you should be biologically. So anyway, of babies. So, you just want to pick and choose what you want to put your energy in. And shout out to those people out there who are just like, I don't really want to get involved. I don't really know where I stand. I don't really want to know. I don't really want to pick a side right now. Shout out to y'all, because it's better to do that than to just start adding to the emotional logical fallacy fray out there, because it's just ridiculous. But anyway, I don't know. I had what's a few other things. It's not a male issue. I mean, it's not a female issue anymore. Sorry, that was given up. Remember, males can get pregnant now. So just like in other things, sports, et cetera, you gave up the power of the gender bias and the gender difference. All right. So, hey, have we seen cases yet? So no, you can't say they're coming after you can't say they're coming after just women now. They're coming after us men too, because we can get pregnant now. So anyway, that's 15 minutes. I'll flesh out some other things in other videos, but just to get the ball rolling and get the video out there, hey, that's that. If you feel otherwise, Tell me what part of this video you don't agree with, and I can flesh it out some more, and or do my best to solve that issue or that dilemma for you. So anyway, love and peace and light. But that'll be it for this video. All right. See you on another, maybe potentially controversial video. Have some non-controversial topics coming up too. But anyway, just wanted to go ahead and join the fray on this one. See y'all later.